That's the proof. The RFID chip, they was inserting it in animals and everything first. That's how they found out about it. They was testing it on animals. That's the mark of the beast. It's a chip. That's the chip. They insert it in your ID too. They put in your ID in your. That's how they say your credit card. They say you can't use nothing. You can't spend. You can't stop. You can't buy, sell, nor trade unless you got the mark of the beast. Just think about it. Where they use food stamps and credit cards, and they use debit cards, all that.
Shalom, shalom. This is Brother Ishar from GMS Mississippi Gulf Coast. Before I get started, I'm going to give infinite honor and glory and praise to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rekakwadash, that belongs to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the Akim that's pushing this truth without faith, righteousness, and sincerity. To you, I say shalom, all right? And this is just a lesson through the Rekakwadash, keep thy foot. You know, as you can see, I played a clip from yesterday's camp, man. You know, that's something I took from it, in the beginning. I wanted to do a lesson on it, man, especially when it happened. It gave me the spirit to make sure I did a lesson on it, man. Jake, Jake came up to the camp, and, he had that zeal, but he wasn't trying to, at a point, he wasn't hearing out the knowledge, man, and you can't do that, man. When you step into the camp, man, the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is out there, man. Like the Lord said, man, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm there in the midst thereof, man. So you got to make sure you're doing more listening than speaking, man. All right, especially if you're not the teacher, man. The prophet, man. But with that, I'm gonna start with Ecclesiastes 5:1. It says, "Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Be more ready to hear than to give a sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil." I'm going to read the verse 2. It says, "Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before Yahweh Shem Yahushua. For Yahweh Shem Yahushua is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few," man. Be mindful, man. Okay, be mindful when you stepping up to the household of faith, man, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. Okay, don't be so quick to just start talking out of nowhere, man. All right. But yeah, like it says, man, right? Keep thy foot, man, meaning be quiet and hold your peace, man. We're gonna you don't have your time to talk and ask questions, man, but hold your peace, man. All right, you don't come into a classroom when you was at school and while your teacher talking, or in a private meeting at your job, and interrupt. So how much more when the true teachers, the true man of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is speaking, man? Okay, and we understand, man. Jake, be overzealous, man. Matter of fact, just to that point I said, and I kind of quoted it when I started the lesson. This Romans 10:2. It says, "For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, but not according to knowledge," man. Okay, so Jake be overzealous, man. They be having that zeal, all right, but you have to turn it down in order to get the knowledge, man. Okay, because the true man of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man, we give him the knowledge, man. All right, and it's free. All right, we're not charging you anything. The only thing we're asking you to do is just be quiet, man. Let us speak what we need, get off what we need to say, man. You'll have your turn to talk, man. Okay, but you gotta let all things be done decently in order, man. All right, and the order is we're the teachers. All right, that's how the Lord set it up, and that's how it is, man. All right, the Lord ordained that, man. What Jeremiah, 1:5, okay. What John 15 through 16, the Lord ordained this, okay. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna reread it. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 1. It says, "Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Be more ready to hear than to give a sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil." All right. So yeah, man. So how can you just speak on something, man, without knowing what, when, where, and why? Right? You learned that in school. That when the three W's, they say when, where, and why. Right? You have to hear the conclusion, man. And the conclusion goes into the discussion, man. And what the scriptures tell you, what Ecclesiastes, 12 and 13, hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Right? That scripture start off like that, right? Because that's what we must do. All right, hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Conclusion goes into discussion. All right. If not, then you just walking up, just speaking random things, man. You know, and just speaking random things sometimes can throw off the topic of things, man, which is a foolish thing to do. All right. And with that, I want to get Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 8. It says, answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talking, man. So, just don't give an account, man. All right. Until first you have given until first and foremost, let me say this, Salakia, don't just interrupt, man. All right. Like I said, let all things be done decently and in order, man. All right. So, until you first be given the opportunity to speak. And secondly, until you have heard, matter of fact, Salakia, let me flip them back around. First, you need to make sure that you have heard what's being said. Second, you need to make sure you have been given the opportunity to speak, man. All right. Even the world teaches you it is a rude thing to interrupt the man in his speech. Okay. So how much more when the men of the Lord are talking, man? How much respect you should have for Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and his men. All right. And like I said in this legend, this ain't nothing to that brother. He seemed very sincere. Well, I ain't gonna say very sincere. He seemed sincere, cause Jay could come off like that, like they really, they get the page and they act like this, and you never see him again, But through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, it seemed like Jake was willing to learn. He just had to, be quiet and listen. It seemed like Jake was really intrigued. Really took a liking to what was being said. He was just getting, you can listen more on the camp. He really was getting wet up, and it was raining. He had groceries and stuff, so Jake had to dip out. He was giving the names. He was giving the camp page, man. So it ain't no cloak for his sins no more. That was the time for Jake to walk up and get the word, get the names. Get the armor handed to him. Ephesians 6, man. He got the armor handed to him for him to put on, then or later. But it was given to him, man. When you go to a job, you go to a job and then you got the uniform, the people that give out the uniform, man. All right. He was given the armor, he was given that uniform, man. What time, where and how he put it on, that's on him. But like scripture says, no cloak for his sin. But let me get back to the lesson, Salakia. Went going on to another route, but it's all through the spirit. Right, man. Like I was saying, man, don't be so quick to just answer and say something. That's just like, man, before the teacher asked the question, the teacher wrote up, before the teacher write the whole question out, the whole math question out, you sitting there saying, hey, you know what I'm saying? The teacher ain't finished writing the question on the board. You know what I'm saying? And wrong answer. You see what I'm saying? Because you ain't done listened. You ain't done paid attention. All right. I'm gonna get Sirach 18 and 19. It says, learn before thou speak, and use a psychic or ever thou be sick. A physic, Salakia, a physic, or ever thou be sick, Salakia. I'm gonna reread it. This Sirach 18-19. It says, "Learn before thou speak, and use a physic, or ever thou be sick." All right. Yeah. That's Oh yeah. Salakia, man. Lost train of thought for a second. First step of learning is to listen, man. Okay. And I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna just Google first step of learning is listening, and it says what? Yes, the first step in learning, especially in acquiring new knowledge or skill, is often listening. The initial stage involves actively focusing on the information being presented, processing it, and storing it for the future use. Okay. And what are prophets here to do? Give you the knowledge, give you the understanding for you to take on, right? Put on, wear it. I got to talk about the armor, wear it and use it, right? For the times and the times that we are coming in, right? For what? Your salvation. Okay. But first you have to listen. Scripture tell you faith come by hearing the word. Okay. Matter of fact, yeah, what a prophet here to do. And I'm gonna get Ezekiel. And yeah, the prophets are the teachers. All right. So why we holding camp, man? All right, we teach you, you listen. All right. But that's how the Lord set it up. In Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 17, it says, "Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the household of Israel." You Negroes, I think, those and Native American tribes. Okay. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. All right. So through the Rakakodas, that's what we are doing. All right. But this is what the Lord ordained us to do and to be. Respect that. All right. Back to it. This Sirach 18-19 says, "Learn before thou speak, and use physic, or ever thou be sick." And I looked up the word physic, and it goes into medicine of healing. So you either can take the medicine or be sick. So while this word being taught, man, listen and learn. All right. And it's for your better, and it's to help you, man. All right. So while it's being given, man, make sure you're taking heed. All right. I'm gonna end with this precept right here. This is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. All right. The most important thing. All right. Is this knowledge, this wisdom, and this understanding. Okay. All right. It's the principal thing. When you go into principle, right? It's one of the main priorities. Okay. First, fearing Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right. But it's one of the main priorities, man. One of the top things, man. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. How you gonna get it if you ain't listening? Okay. How you gonna get it if you just running being a motor mouth? Okay. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all that getting, get understanding. Okay. Get this understanding while it's going out, man. All right. Don't waste your time over speaking. All right. Listen. That's the first step of communication. All right. With that, I'm going to close out and give infinite honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahushai, Bahashum, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the Akim. It's pushing this truth with all faith and all righteousness and all sincerity. To you, I say shalom.